with all those things in consideration, do you believe that in general people are global citizens by birth, or is that something that happens by default or over a period of time, or is there a certain transitional event that happens? How do you think that occurs?
So um, I'm going to give two answers that are different on that one. I think I would say that you become a, if we're using the term loosely, you become a citizen the moment you're conceived. When you become a human, you are a citizen of this earth. Whether you're a good citizen or not, or an engaged citizen, is a totally different question. I do think that to become a good citizen and to become a more engaged citizen, that I think there has to be exposure to outside ideas. So the people that live in their small town and stay in that small town and never leave that small town, um, I think that's slowly going away. I think there's more exposure to the rest of the world and the way things think with the internet and things like that. But I do think, especially in America, there is a tendency to only know me and not really think about anyone else. We speak one language for the most part. We're pretty we're constantly told that we're the greatest nation on earth, whether it's true or not. We're told that, and so we begin to believe that it's all about us and forget that there's other people out there. So, um, becoming a good citizen, not just becoming a citizen, I think happens when you become human. Becoming a good citizen, I think, is a process that we have to grow into, and some of that requires exposure to other ideas that are uncomfortable.
So, do you think, in terms of global citizenship, the folks that you're talking about that are born in a small town and they grow up there, they don't leave, do they have the ability to gain some of those life
Yeah.
experiences that can create that mindset if they don't leave their state or the region of the country that they're in? Do you have to actually go to another country to gain those life experiences?
I don't think you have to go to another country to gain those life experiences, but I think if you can travel and be immersed in it, I think it's a much more potent way to gain the experience. So you can gain it through reading. I think you can gain it through some opportunities. I think internet provides a tremendous opportunity, even having to Skype with someone. But reading a book about other people's perspectives when no one else around you thinks like that
Mm.
isn't going to be as powerful as actually being forced to enter into a dialogue with people who would disagree radically. And it's okay to disagree, but I think the issue would be, well, how can I hear you in a way that helps me actually understand your perspective? And then when I actually not just sit at a table in a comfortable place, but I actually go to where you live and stay there for a while, I think that exposure, I think it just exponentially increases if you'll be a learner. If you harden your heart and just say, no, I want my way only, there's nothing anyone can do to make that change.
So
So
going to Cancun on vacation is
Cancun on
not really
vacation would not be my example of being a global citizen.
immersing.
I think so. My wife and I went to Cancun for a honeymoon,
Mm.
and so I've already traveled. My wife had traveled a little bit, and one of the things that was difficult for us showing up there is um, the employees at the resort that we were at were local people, and we were living a totally different life for that week than what they experience every day.
Mm.
And so I can't say that my trip to Cancun actually helped me be a global citizen. I think it was fun, it was good, but it was I didn't know what they were experiencing. I can't pretend like I was knowing what they were experiencing. Now, if I would have taken a week and gone and lived with them in their little house and helped them go to work and make food, then I think I would have that would have been a much different experience in Mexico than which I've had before. That's a much different experience than um, going to
The
the resort
honeymoon.
or going on the cruise.
Right. So, aside from your year in Australia, what other maybe like mission opportunities or immersion opportunities have
Yeah,
you experienced?
I've been to Mexico several times, Guatemala, Haiti, um, Jordan, Dubai, Israel, um, um, Turkey, Afghanistan, China. Um, those are probably the main ones. Off the top of my head, those are the places that I've gone, and all of those were for no less than a week, some of them longer. Um, yeah, and none of those were resorts that I just shared. That wasn't a resort vacation. That was kind of hopping in. But I will say, like even here, like one of the things that I've discovered where we're at, um, I've gotten a chance to be exposed to different people. I met people from Saudi Arabia here, just having coffee, and I see them. We get into a conversation. Met people that work on the cruise ships that are off and had conversation. There's a lot of people right in our community that are not that are not Native American. Not that's the wrong term, but yeah, they're not.
Native to
They're not.
America.
They're not U.S. born citizens. They're either green card people or they're people who have immigrated over to the U.S. and they have a much different perspective. And there's a chance to engage those people. They might be hidden to us, but to friendship with them, having them to your house for dinner, and just hearing going to their house for dinner. Often I went to some people who were from Singapore, went to their house for dinner the other night, and we learned a lot about Singapore that I just didn't know. So you can learn a lot of stuff without having to go anywhere.
What do you think, even being citizens of the United States in all of the different regions of the U.S. and different levels of um, socioeconomic status just in the United States, do you think that there are things that people that live right here in Florida miss regarding social issues and how others live their lives
So you mean like with other Floridians or with the
all
world?
over the United States? Just not even outside of the United
Yeah.
States, but just in the United States, because especially like with mission trips, when I think a lot of people, when you say I'm going on a mission trip, you
Yeah.
think you're going to another country, but there are a lot of mission
Yeah.
opportunities in the United
Yeah.
States, and some of those people that I've interacted with or trips that I've gone on myself
Yeah.
are pretty eye opening
Yeah.
about conditions of people that live right here in the United States, the
Yeah.
greatest country in the world
Yeah.
that we said earlier.
Yeah.
So what do you think maybe is missed?
Well, I think, oh man, you're opening up a can of worms for me. So I'll go briefly so I can share some of that. So here's the thing. I think sometimes when we go on trips, and I'm going to speak from a church perspective, but when there's like a mission trip type thing, one of the defaults that happens, we show up trying to be the hero, and we show up not understanding the full context with answers that we think, oh, this is a simple fix, and it's never as simple as we think it is. It's always much more complex, and um, so I think we sometimes when we travel overseas on trips like that, we have a misperception of what's going on, and we're shocked by the poverty that we see, or the smells that we smell, or the situation that we're looking at. But it's we're just have the initial shock, and sometimes we show up with our simple answers, and it's not that simple. For here in the U.S., I think it's a real similar thing. I think white middle class Americans can look at a lower class American and say, I know your problem. You need to work harder. And it might not be that simple. And so some of the trips that we've done here, and again, this is more to help give people a better awareness of what's happening in the world. So I just took a group to San Francisco, um, and there's a city out in that area that is very diverse, one of the more diverse areas in the country. And what we did is we took them there and took them to different restaurants to eat, had them visit a mosque, a Buddhist temple, a Sikh temple, a Hindu temple, a Jewish synagogue. Um, they met people from Yemen and Afghanistan and Saudi Arabia and I forgot what the Sikhs were. India, Punjabis from India. They encountered all these people in like 5 days. Um, and I think the thing that happened is they just kind of were just awakened to the fact that there are people here that have a totally different thing, and someone almost had to walk their hand through it, saying, "Do you know what it's like for these people who barely speak English to send their kids to school and their kids come home with homework and they can't help their kid with the homework because they don't speak the language?" Like I think there's some things where they say, they just need to work harder. It's like, well, it's it's hard when you don't speak the language to work harder. And another group that I was speaking with, that there was a lot of things that were going on, but their family back home were getting death threats because of the way they were living here in the States. And so they changed the way they're living in the States to protect their family back home, because what they were living was dishonoring the family back home. And we said, well, just do it. And well, you can't. It's not as simple as you're in America, you're free. There's still connections back home that we don't understand. So, all that to say, that was a long answer to what was supposed to be a simple question. But I would say that people, it's not as simple as just visiting. There's a lot that we have to hear and listen and build a relationship for us to actually understand what's happening with the people across the street or across the state or across the nation.
Okay.
I don't know about that.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah, yeah.
All right. So, anything else that you thought of while we were talking
Said so much.
that you'd like to to add to that? All the questions that
I guess I would say this, that that one of the struggles that we're going to have to wrestle with, especially in a country where we love our country, is how do we learn to engage the world around us without, oh man, how do I say this? I'm winging it on all these things, so I hope I don't sound like an idiot. But one of the things that's kind of going on I think that I'm encountering with people, especially people get more set in their ways, is they really like their way of life here. And so, one of the things that we have to learn how to do is learn to be global citizens and to be American citizens at the same time without sacrificing both of those things. And I think there's a way to do it. It doesn't mean there's not compromises, but if we try to make ourselves global citizens in a way that stops making us American, I don't think it's going to fly here. But if we can learn how to be American and make changes that have to be made for that, and at the same time still be good citizens of the world by considering others more than ourselves, I think that would be a huge stride. We have to learn how to do both of those things, not just one of them. And so, because I think there's work that needs to be done here. We need to be good citizens of the U.S. and at the same time, there is work to be done around the world. There are really awful things that are happening, and America, as a government, as an individuals, has resources and influence that we could really make a good impact on the globe. And I think sometimes we're more focused on how we make our economy good and how we make our people good, and we'll use everyone else for that. And I think we've got to figure that out. So there you go.
All right. Well, thank you
Yep,
for
no
your
problem.
time.
No
and
problem. Okay.
all right.